Hello, everybody. Welcome to Between the Bumps Professional Wrestling Podcast, the pro wrestling podcast where we go between the bumps in the ring to discuss match quality, storylines, wrestling news, and even make predictions in the world of professional wrestling and sports entertainment. I'm your host, Christian Marrero. Thank you for tuning in. What is up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Between the Bumps Professional Wrestling Podcast, the Smackdown review show. Last week I had a bone to pick with WWE over Smackdown, and this week I am very, very pleased with WWE over Smackdown. So let's jump right into it. Smackdown was actually a really good show, and we started off with a Jeff Hardy segment. He comes out to the ring, and Michael Cole lets us know that Elias suffered a torn pectoral muscle, and he could miss a couple of months due to the injury. So Jeff comes out and he cuts a promo and he says that what happened last week was very dangerous and not a pretty picture, but he's going to give us his point of view and paint a different picture of what happened. He says that he arrived at the Performance Center when out of nowhere he was attacked. And next thing he knew, he was being arrested in the bushes and his clothes reeked of alcohol. He said he started drifting back to those dark days when he was in that dark place and that he started questioning everything, even himself. But he says it's all good, I'm in the WWE for a reason, and that he knew deep down last week that he did not slip. He says that when the police took him, he passed every sobriety test they gave him, and that witnesses said that the person who fled the scene had red hair and a red beard. And then he goes on to say that his anger can only be expressed through action, and that Sheamus tried to take everything away from him, but he'll be damned if Sheamus gets away with it. So then Sheamus comes out, and he tells Jeff not to cast diversions onto him, and that people like him always blame others and have excuses. And he says, your fans are even worse than you, Jeff, because they're enablers. And he tells Jeff, look, Jeff, be a man and admit to what you did. And he says, but you're not a man, you're just a junkie. And he's like, and Jeff, don't worry about your family. Your family's used to your slip-ups. And that's when Jeff lost it. Jeff leaves the ring. He goes and attacks Sheamus. He dodges the first brogue kick that Sheamus throws, but then he gets caught with a second, and then he just starts throwing Jeff into the plexiglass walls that the Performance Center has set up. And that's how the segment ends. And, okay, here's what I'm saying about this. Last week, I had a big problem with this segment. This segment really, really bothered me. And I'm not even joking about that. It really got under my skin because I felt like we were walking backwards. But I figured they were going to do this. I really did. I even said it on last week's podcast that this was a very real possibility. But my issue still stands in that, did we really have to get this over this way? And we still didn't get to see Jeff Hardy versus Daniel Bryan. However, now I realize why they did it. It makes a little more sense to me. It serves two purposes. One, we're trying to build sympathy for Jeff. And two, we had to write Elias off of TV. We had to get Elias off of TV and explain his injury in the storyline. So I guess I can forgive the segment. I guess. But I will say this. Jeff Hardy is super charismatic and he's a really great talker. He's really great on the mic and he just is really good at garnering sympathy. So, good on Jeff. Then we move on to a segment with Otis and Mandy backstage. They're walking through the backstage area on their way to the ring, and they find Baron Corbin's crown and his robe, and Otis puts on the crown. Then Corbin arrives, and he sees his crown is missing. He is notably pissed, and a backstage hand tells Corbin that Otis took it. That backstage hand is a narc. But that's not the first narc security person backstage hand that we're going to see throughout the show. And then we move on into Otis versus Baron Corbin. They go back and forth in the early goings of the match. Otis knocks Corbin out of the ring, and Corbin pushes him into the apron. That's when they return to the ring, and Corbin is able to take control after a spine buster on Otis. Corbin locks in a sleeper hold, but Otis drives him into the corner. Baron throws some blows into Otis as Otis pumps himself up, so he's taking the hits and he's just pumping himself up with them. So after various deadlift throws onto Corbin, Otis regains control of the match. And then, after a splash in the corner, Otis sets up for the Caterpillar. But Corbin rolls out of the ring. Otis then pursues Corbin, and so Corbin hits him with a chair, and so Otis wins by DQ. But the reason I'm okay with this, usually I'm very critical of DQ finishes because they happen so often in WWE, but I'm okay with this because Otis pretty much no-sold the chair shots. Like, he sold it for a quick second, but they had very little effect on him. And so he goes into the ring, chasing Corbin. He slams Corbin, and he's able to hit the Caterpillar after just taking some chair shots. So, like, I'm cool with this DQ finish because it builds Otis up as more of a powerhouse, if that makes sense. And that's good. We should be moving in that direction with Otis if we really want to believe that he could possibly take Braun Strowman's Universal Championship. So this is one DQ finish I'm giving a pass to because they allowed Otis to no-sell it. So that is, it gets a pass. Usually I'm very critical of DQ finishes, and I am very critical of how often WWE relies on DQ finishes because they book themselves into a match where they don't want to choose between one competitor or the other. But that wasn't the case here. It was not that they could not choose who to lose because Baron Corbin still looks like a schmuck at the end of everything. He still got beat up. It's just to make Otis look stronger, and that is a good thing. So then we have a segment with Miz and Morrison, and these segments carried on throughout the night. It was a continuous segment that had various pieces to it. I will address them separately throughout the episode, but the first one we got, Miz and Morrison are in a white van outside of the Performance Center, and they are spying on Braun Strowman. Miz cuts a small promo in the van, and he says everybody knows what it's like to deal with annoying coworkers, and that everyone has been doubting himself and Morrison ever since they challenged Strowman for the Universal Championship. And he's like, what you are about to see, he's addressing the audience, what you are about to witness could be called childish by some, but it's actually very strategic. And then we are shown video footage of Braun entering the Performance Center, going to prepare a protein shake, but it was kind of like when you mix vinegar and baking soda. The mixture just fizzes and it starts exploding over into his hands. And Miz and Morrison are obviously amused, and Braun is very angry. Now, I'm going to address this segment specifically. It was dumb. It was really dumb, and I didn't like the moment. I didn't like the segment in the moment. Like, as I was watching it, I didn't really enjoy it. However, later on in the show, it redeemed itself in a way, and I will explain that later. So, after this segment, we get an interview with Chad Gable backstage, and I will repeat myself, I refuse to call him Shorty G. I refuse. He is an Olympic wrestler. He could really beat the crap out of like 90% of the locker room in WWE, and he is extremely talented in ring. I refuse to not call him Chad Gable. His name is Chad Gable on this podcast. So anyways, before Gable can even say anything, Mojo Rawley interrupts. And he tells Gable and the interviewer that Gronk was robbed of his title, being Rob Gronkowski. And he says, Gable, your interview has been cut short. Ha ha ha, a short joke. So then Cesaro and Nakamura arrive, and the three of them attack Gable, but the New Day comes in and they make the save. And this sets up a six-man tag team between Rawley, Cesaro, and Nakamura against Gable and the New Day. Then we move on into another match, and it's Lacey Evans versus Sonya Deville, a rubber match from last week's match, because last week we did not get a finish. And before the match starts, Deville attacks Evans and throws her into the steel steps. So then they cut to commercial, and after coming back from commercial, the two women grapple for a bit, and after dodging a strike in the corner, Lacey gains control of the match, but Sonya slaps Lacey, And then after being thrown into the corner again, she's able to hit Evans with a big boot to regain the advantage. Then Deville begins using her MMA background by using kicks to inflict damage before throwing Evans to the floor by use of her hair, which she then steps on. Evans reverses an Irish whip and she throws Deville into the corner, and then she reverses a big boot with a leg drag. Kind of like a dragon screw, but not really a dragon screw. So Lacey throws Deville into the ref inadvertently, and the ref hurts his knee. He begins to plead for help after separating the two women, and so another ref comes out before the second commercial break. We return from commercial, and Sonya's in control after spearing Evans and throwing her into the stairs during the commercial break. Evans tries to regain control, but Deville throws her to the ground using her hair again. Deville then hits a nasty neck breaker from the apron to the floor. And what I mean by that is Evans was laid across the apron, Sonya was on the floor, and she grabs Lacey by the neck and just drops her with a nasty neck breaker to the outside. So then she takes Evans over to the steps and starts stepping on her face. However, Lacey is able to regain control after dodging a clothesline and landing one of her own. Evans hits a Bronco Buster type move and then hits that cool springboard moonsault she does where she stands on the top rope, salutes, then jumps up with a turn and hits the moonsault. But Deville is able to kick out at 2. Then Deville gains the advantage again after landing a knee. She locks Lacey in a submission, but she's forced to break it because she was using the ropes, and then she lands another running knee. It's at this point that Mandy appears on the Titantron to interrupt the match, and this distracts Deville. So Deville turns around, and Lacey is able to land the woman's right, and she gets the pinfall victory. It's not a bad match. I'm glad it did not end in a countout or a DQ. We got a victor. We got a finish. Lacey Evans won, and it was a good match. Both of these women are very talented. Deville, like I said last week, is very underrated, and Lacey Evans has really improved since being brought up to Smackdown. So she's doing good. Then we move on, and we have a backstage interview with Braun Strowman. And this continues on to the segment I talked about earlier with Miz and Morrison. So Miz and Morrison set up a slime bucket or something beforehand, and they try to dump it on Braun, but instead, it pours all over Kayla Braxton. So then Miz and Morrison, they bicker about the setup of the slime, but then they're like, some got on Braun's leg. Okay, cool, we accomplished our goal. That part was funny, I can't lie. I laughed when they were bickering, and then out of nowhere they were like, well, we kind of succeeded because some got on Braun's leg. Like, that got a chuckle out of me, I'm not gonna lie. But overall, once again, this segment did not sell me until later on in the show. So then we have the face-to-face with Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles. Renee Young is in the ring, she's gonna be the one conducting it. She introduces Daniel Bryan and she introduces AJ Styles. She puts both of them over wonderfully as she does this. And then she says she'll start with Bryan. But then AJ interrupts and says, no, you should start with me. Because I already know what Bryan's going to say. He says that I'm a coward and all this other stuff. And he's like, but if Jeff Hardy hadn't gotten involved against Sheamus would have beaten you, Bryan. You wouldn't even be here right now. And so then Renee asks him, well, Bryan, do you think that AJ is a coward? And Bryan says, yeah, you know what? AJ does show traits of cowardice. And then she asks AJ why he took a bye. Why did he not want to win his opportunity the way Daniel Bryan did? And AJ says, look, I took a bye because it was the smart thing to do. I see myself as a champion. Daniel Bryan has heart, but he's stupid. I'm not stupid. Then Bryan retorts by saying, look, we've known each other a very long time, and we have very different views on everything. And we have very different views on what being IC champion is. He tells AJ, look, AJ, you would probably defend that belt very sparingly against a select few because you're a coward. You would be so scared to lose your title. However, my vision for the title is to defend it each and every week against whoever wants a chance. Not because I want to give others an opportunity, but because I want to push myself to be the very best. And because I want the WWE Universe to be excited every week to watch Smackdown. AJ then says that it sounds like Daniel Bryan just wants some kind of handout, but he doesn't believe in handouts. He believes in earning opportunities. And then he asks Daniel Bryan, how did Gulak earn the opportunity to be your coach? Better yet, how did Gulak earn the opportunity to be in the WWE? And he says, you know what? I'll give Gulak a handout, aka an ass whooping. And then Gulak enters and he attacks Styles. And then we move in to Drew Gulak versus AJ Styles. And I had notes taken on this match, but I erased all of them. I am not going to spoil anything about it. I'm not going to say anything about it other than go watch this match. Go watch it. It was amazing. It was so good. This is one of the most realistic feeling matches I have seen in WWE in a long, long time. This was the match of the night. Easily match of the night. Go watch it. I will not spoil anything about it for you. I will not discuss any further other than saying it was really good and you need to go watch it. I implore you. Please go watch this match because that is how good it was. Then we move on to another Miz and Morrison segment, and this is when the segments redeemed themselves. This is when they started redeeming themselves. This is when this segment got very serious, had actual stakes implicated, and this is when they started on the path to, okay, this is actually good. So Miz and Morrison go to Braun's car. It is a Buick Grand National, a classic car, a beautiful car. And they smash the windshield. They just come with a golf club and a baseball bat and they just smash out the windshield. They smash it to shit. And all this time, a security guard is watching them. And so they go and they wait in the van to see Braun's reaction. Then we move on to the 6-man tag match, which is the New Day and Chad Gable versus Cesaro, Nakamura, and Mojo Rawley. So we start off with Cesaro and Gable. Gable goes for a senton immediately, but he is caught by Cesaro. Cesaro goes for a slam, but he's dragged down by Gable. And then Gable hits a dragon screw on him, and he tags in Big E. Mojo is tagged in briefly to overpower Big E before tagging in Nakamura. Kofi tags in briefly to attack and then tags in Gable. Gable attacks Nakamura and then he tags in Big E again. And Big E slams Nakamura, tags in Kofi, who hits a splash on Nakamura from the middle rope. There was a lot of tags in this match. I mean, it was just tag after tag after tag. They were tagging incessantly. It's good tag team psychology, but there was a lot of tags. I can't deny that. So Kofi hits a dive to the outside on Cesaro, and he starts selling the knee before they cut to commercial. After the commercial break, Cesaro is in control of Kingston after Mojo had attacked Kofi on the outside during the commercial break. Mojo tags in, and he's thrown out by Kofi, but he quickly re-enters the ring. He attacks Big E, but Kofi takes advantage of that to tag in Gable. Gable hits a great crossbody, attacks Nakamura on the ring apron, and he attacks Cesaro, and he gains control of Mojo. He hits a great moonsault on Mojo, but Mojo is able to power out at 2. Gable reverses a military press slam, and he turns it into the ankle lock. But Shinsuke saves Mojo from this. Mojo is definitely going to tap out. But Shinsuke comes in, makes the save. Big E removes Nakamura, and Kofi attacks him on the outside. Big E tags in. He lands the big ending on Mojo. Tags in Kofi, who hits a nice splash, gets the pinfall. New Day and Chad Gable win the match. It was a good match. It was great tag team psychology. Both teams were making frequent tags. They were cutting off the ring. It was actually good. It was really good six-man tag. I'm not the biggest fan of six-man tags. I feel like sometimes people get lost in the shuffle during a six-man tag. But this one was actually good. They had great psychology. Everyone was given time to show off. Everyone in the match was super talented. So it was good. And then we follow with the last Miz, Morrison, and Braun Strowman segment of the night. And this is when everything got amazing. And this is when I was sold on the segments. So Miz and Morrison are once again spying on Braun Strowman. And they watch as he finds his car. He finds it all smashed up. He is notably pissed. So he goes to the security guard who was watching them and says, "Who did this?" And the security guard snitches on Miz and Morrison. Another narc backstage hand in WWE. But honestly, I would snitch too if big-ass Braun Strowman was standing in front of me asking me questions. So they lock themselves in the van. They lock all the doors. And Braun decides, well, you know what? I can't get in the van, so I'm just gonna flip it over. I'm just gonna push this giant-ass van over on its side. And he does. He flips it. And then he laughs at them. This makes all the previous segments that I have mentioned worth it. I love seeing Braun flip vehicles over. I love seeing Braun just do awesome strongman stuff. It is never not impressive when you see Braun Strowman come and flip an ambulance or flip a van. It is amazing. I would literally watch every week a segment of Braun Strowman just flipping some kind of vehicle. And I would enjoy it. I love that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is awesome. And it's even more awesome knowing that, like, he can really do that kind of stuff. And it's a stark reminder, like, hey, this guy really is, like, dangerous. He's a monster. Like, his nickname, Monster Among Men, that's not just a nickname. Like, this dude can literally just flip large vehicles over onto their sides. It's amazing. It was very, very enjoyable to see. It was just awesome. I love seeing Braun flip shit over, and it made all of the previous Miz and Morrison segments well worth it. It really did. Like, I was watching the individual segments, and I did not like them that much. However, as soon as this segment happened, it redeemed all of it. It really did. Just because it gave you a reason, like, okay, I can understand why Braun would want to flip that car over right now. I get it. And so, that was really good. I just love seeing Braun do crazy powerhouse stuff like that. I really do. So, that segment redeemed all of the other segments involving Miz and Morrison throughout the night. Then we move into the main event of the evening, and it was Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross defending their tag team championships against Bayley and Sasha Banks. This got the main event slot, which is a very good thing. It is a very good thing that this was put in the main event because, like I've explained, I feel like the most important matches in a night need to be the main event. That is how I feel. That is what I believe. So Nikki and Bayley start off the match, and Nikki just, like a bat out of hell, attacks Bayley. And then she tags in Bliss. This was another match that had a lot of tags, a lot of great tag team psychology. So Bliss attacks, she tags Cross back in. Nikki hits a splash in the corner. Alexa tags back in. Alexa slaps Bayley, who retaliates, and then she tags in Sasha Banks. Sasha attacks very briefly before tagging back in Bayley. Alexa goes for a roll-up after being slapped by Bayley. And then she tags in Cross, who begins just dominating Bayley. She's just beating the crap out of Bayley until Banks finally intervened. Banks tags in, hits a Meteora on Cross on the outside of the ring before the commercial break. Then we return from commercial, and Banks and Bayley are in control of Cross. They land a double team slam on Cross, but Nikki is able to kick out at 2. Then Banks hits the double knee in the corner. Cross kicks out again. And then Banks goes for a backslide pin, but Cross kicks out, and Banks tags back out of the match. So Bayley comes in, locks in a headlock, drives Cross into the corner. Cross keeps going for tags, but Bayley continues cutting her off. They cut the ring in half, and then Cross finally makes the tag. She finally makes the hot tag on Bliss. Bliss slaps Bayley, and she hits Banks before hitting a nice drop kick onto Bayley. And then she hits her classic handstand flip knee strike things that she does. Bayley then hits a Bayley to belly from the top rope, and it was just dirty looking. Like, it was really brutal looking. The Bayley to belly isn't the most exciting of finishers. Honestly, I don't even think it should be a finisher. It's just a belly to belly slam, and we see people kick out of those all the time. But this one looked brutal because it was from the top rope. So Bayley tags in Banks. She hits the running knee on Bliss, but Bliss kicks out. And then Cross hits a tornado DDT on Bayley, while Bliss hits a sunset flip on Sasha Banks, but Sasha is able to kick out. Cross tags in, Banks locks in the Banks statement after tagging Bayley, and so she's being counted by the ref. Bayley throws Banks out of the ring to save the match from disqualification. And then Banks makes the save on Bayley because Bayley was about to get pinned. And then she tags in, she locks in the Banks statement again, but Cross reverses it into a pin, but then Sasha reverses that into a crucifix pin, and she wins. They won the titles, and I was not expecting that. It was a great match, but I was not expecting that finish. They had great tag team psychology, they had a lot of frequent tagging, they cut the ring in half, and we have new champions. We have new champions. Sasha and Bayley are the new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, and I think this is a good idea. I really do. Those belts were losing a little bit of steam. Now, the matches that they've been on, the storylines, they've been okay, but they haven't been, like, really, really great. But Sasha and Bayley are really, really great, so I think making them the champions is going to be good for the title. I really do, and it'll be more impactful if Sasha turns on Bayley while they're the champions. That'll make that turn all the more important, all the more relevant. So this week, Smackdown was a lot better. It was a lot better this week. There was only one DQ finish, but like I said, I'm not against it. It worked because we made Otis look very strong with that DQ finish. He no-sold the chair shots. There were a lot of good matches. Like I said, Drew Gulak versus AJ Styles, go watch that. Go watch that now. Whatever you're doing, stop doing it. Well, finish listening to this episode of the podcast and then go watch that match. Go watch it. And we got new champions. We had a championship match and a title change, which that's always fun, especially when the new champions are actually good choices for the champions. It was good. It was really good. An 8.5 out of 10 easily. It was a really good episode of SmackDown, and this one went by really quickly. Like, when it was over, I was surprised. I was like, wow, it's 10 o'clock already? It was really good. Like, I'm never ever like that about SmackDown. Like, usually, not to say that SmackDown drags, but it never goes on in a way that I'm just like, oh, it's over already? I'm surprised. That's not what I thought. So this was a really good show. Really, really good show. 8.5 out of 10, easy. So last week, I had a bone to pick with you, WWE, over SmackDown. This week, you delivered. SmackDown was a good show. We had great matches. And I will repeat just one more time. Go watch Drew Gulak versus AJ Styles. Go watch it. I implore you. It is that good. I promise you it is that good. I'm not even joking. I am not joking in the slightest. It was an amazing match. One of my favorite matches that I've seen in a while. It was that good. Go watch that match. Anyways, guys, that's all I got to say about SmackDown. SmackDown was a really good show this week. I am very glad that WWE was able to deliver. So that's it, guys. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the podcast. Well, guys, this has been Between the Bumps Professional Wrestling Podcast, the pro wrestling podcast where we go between the bumps in the ring to discuss match quality, storylines, wrestling news, and even make predictions in the world of professional wrestling and sports entertainment. I'm your host, Christian Marrero. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay safe, and I'll catch you guys later.